So Circe's like, here, have some enchanted booze. And Odysseus is like, awesome. Drinks it, fails to turn into a pig, and then draws a sword on it. So she's like, wait, I'm a mage. I have like 2 hit points. And he's like, I suggest you...
I'm a mage. I have 2
and then
hit
draws
points.
a sword on it.
Hello, gals, blokes, and all other folks. My name is Mortius, and welcome to a very unique episode of Whatever Wednesdays. This is probably the least explicitly musical thing that has made it onto the channel, maybe ever. That being said, it is very clearly directly related to a musical property because we are checking out Classic Summarized The Odyssey by Overly Sarcastic Productions. Ever since I finished my Epic the Musical reactions, this has been one of my most recommended videos. On the Patreon, in comment sections, whenever I make a community post, people are always shouting this creator out. I have never seen any content from Overly Sarcastic Productions. I don't know what their style or vibe or anything like that is. All I know is that it was highly, highly recommended, and the only reason it took me so long to get to it is it's not musical in any way, and at least on this channel, I've never really checked out something that isn't explicitly musical. So I'm really curious to see what you guys think of my reaction and commentary style when it comes to something less musical and more just explicitly comedic. See if this works well, see if this is something you guys would want to see more of, or if I should stick to musicals. I really don't know yet, but all of that to say, I am very, very excited to see what this is about. I love these sort of like comedy summarized type videos. I've seen videos like this with other books or shows, or like there was a really funny one that I watched for like the original God of War trilogy when I was getting ready to play the PS5 version. So like I love this type of genre, so I'm really excited to see what they bring to this. And I don't think I have anything else to say just because I don't know what this video is going to be, so let's find out together.
So, the Odyssey, or as I like to identify it, Troy Story 2, is something of a sequel to the Iliad.
Alright, I already understand the vibes and I already love it. Troy Story 2 is phenomenal.
The Odyssey, or as I like to identify it, Troy Story 2, is something of a sequel to the Iliad, chronicling the various happily ever afters, or otherwise, of our favorite Greek heroes. But really what it's mostly about is how much the universe hates Odysseus and wants him to suffer for as long as humanly possible. Seriously, in the 10 years it takes him to get from Troy to Ithaca, this guy gets put through more crap than a 20-pound bag of industrial strength Huggies sized for incontinent bulls. So the Odyssey
Okay, so this is gonna be very, like, history of the entire world, I guess, where it just go, 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 go. Okay, wow, this guy puts up with more crap than an industrial-sized bag of Huggies designed for incontinent bulls. Wow, this creator has a way with words. Okay, I am so excited for this. Please enjoy this mental image while you wait. I didn't even catch that. I was too busy reading the captions. That's stunning. So, as a quick bit of clarification that I didn't put in the intro, I have not read the original Odyssey. The only, like, representations of the Odyssey I am familiar with are Percy Jackson Book 2 and Epic the Musical. So there's probably going to be some things in here that I learn are different than what I thought, or at least what I have already come to understand.
Through more crap than a 20-pound bag of industrial strength Huggies sized for incontinent bulls. So the Odyssey begins with our hero, who's been stranded on an island for 7 years with no company other than a gorgeous, lonely, immortal goddess by the name
It starts on
of
Calypso's
Calypso.
Island.
Terrible,
Interesting.
Right? Well, actually, it does kind of suck for him.
Leave me alone,
More
woman.
than anything is to get back home to Ithaca, specifically back to his lovely wife Penelope and his now adult son Telemachus, who Odysseus hasn't seen since he was a baby.
Who? Telemachus?
Specifically back to his lovely wife Penelope and his now adult son Telemachus, who
I'm sure that's how you're supposed to say it, but that just breaks me after hearing Telemachus.
Odysseus hasn't seen since he was a baby. And in fact, the story initially focuses on these two. See, since almost everyone thinks Odysseus is dead, Penelope is now widely considered to be Ithaca's most eligible bachelorette. And as a result, she's got more than 100 potential suitors queuing up in her castle, demanding that she pick one of them to marry her and become the new king. Her son Telemachus is none too pleased about the suitors throwing a never-ending frat party in his house. Now, by the time our story begins, most of the gods have decided that poor Odysseus has suffered enough at this point. So Athena disguises herself as a dude, drops down into Ithaca, and then tells Telemachus, "Hey, your dad's alive. Maybe you should go try and find out where he is." So Telemachus, who's a pretty smart kid,
Wait, gods erupt from the woodwork at regular intervals. This guy gives me a funny but totally straight feeling. Mysteriously appears from nowhere, has no business being here anyway. Weird color palette, never seen him before. Magic smoke still dissipating.
Immediately figures out that this dude is actually a god, and thus
You're
takes her
doing
word.
so
But
great.
before he leaves, Telemachus tries and fails to kick the suitors out of his house. And they're like, "Ooh, is widow baby Telemachus gonna fight us?" And Telemachus is like, "Shut up! I'm gonna find my dad, and he's gonna beat you up." So Telemachus secretly assembles a small loyal crew, acquires a ship, and sets off in search of news. The first place he
Okay.
goes is Pylos, home to King Nestor. So Telemachus is like, "Hey, do you have any idea where my father is?" And Nestor's like, "Well, let me think back to when I last saw him. Oh right, it was 9 years ago during the Trojan War.
That's a
Agamemnon and
chunk of
Menelaus
time
were
ago.
arguing, which had split the army down the middle, so Odysseus, Diomedes, Menelaus, and I took our armies and left. Although
Okay.
Odysseus did turn back to head off Agamemnon, and that's the last time I saw him. I don't know what happened after that, though. Maybe
Well, that's not immensely helpful. Thanks, King, whatever your name is. Fascinating. So we see a lot more of the original Odyssey from Telemachus's perspective. I'm so intrigued. This is so
did turn
fast-paced.
back to head off Agamemnon. And
trying to
that's
process
the last
all
time I saw
this.
him. I don't know what happened after that, though. Maybe you should go talk to Menelaus, see what he has
Uh-huh.
to say about the matter.
Naturally.
So Telemachus goes off to Sparta and meets with Menelaus and Helen, now happily remarried. And Telemachus is
Congratulations,
like,
Helen.
"Yeah, can you tell me where my dad is?" And Menelaus is like, "First, let me tell you my story. Okay, so I was marooned on..."
Uh-oh! You've unlocked tragic backstory.
Is like, "Yeah, can you tell me where my dad is?" And Menelaus is like, "First, let me tell you my story. Okay, so I was marooned on this tiny island off the coast of Egypt, right?
Sure.
When this goddess shows up, and she's like,
As they
"Hey,
do.
you should talk to my dad, Proteus. He'll tell you how to get out of here." So I went off and tackled the guy, but he starts shape-shifting, right? But he can't shake me that easily. So we got tired of that pretty quick, and he was like, "Screw it, what do you want?" And I was like, "Do your thing, oh god of telling me stuff." And he's like, "Fine, you're stranded here because you forgot to sacrifice to Zeus before you left. Also, Ajax the Lesser drowned, Agamemnon's dead, and Odysseus is..."
Little Ajax! No! I mean, I guess I knew that they would all die by the time we got to Calypso's Island, even though I learned the story out of order. This is fascinating!
Stranded on Calypso's island. And Telemachus is like, "That's literally all I needed to hear." But back in Ithaca, the suitors have learned that Telemachus left to find news of Odysseus, and they find this very offensive for some
There's
reason,
only
so they
one
start
logical
plotting to kill him as soon
solution.
as he
Let's
gets back. Man, Penelope sure knows how to pick him. Now, on Zeus's orders, Calypso finally lets Odysseus go, so he heads off homeward on a raft. But
Oh.
Poseidon, who's holding a grudge against him for reasons that'll be explained later, notices that he's trying to escape and whips up a huge storm in an effort to drown it. But Odysseus...
Okay. So I've heard people say that Epic gives Poseidon way more of a presence. So in Epic the musical, Poseidon's storm is represented by Poseidon himself. So here, it actually, like, Poseidon does still send a whole storm to try and stop him, but he doesn't, like, actually show up and, like, get in the water.
That'll be explained later.
Interesting.
Notices that
Okay,
he's
so
trying to
Poseidon's
escape and whips up a huge
storm
storm
still
in an
is
effort to
here.
drown it. But Odysseus is far too badass to let a little thing like drowning get him down. He's
Naturally.
doing pretty well for himself when yet another goddess shows up, gives him a magic anti-drowning scarf, and then vanishes. And Odysseus is like, "Huh, why would I need this when I have a perfectly serviceable raft?" Okay then. So Odysseus swims
Valid.
all the way to nearby Phaeacia, drags himself into the forest, and passes out. So Athena, always looking
Okay.
out for Odysseus, zips over to the city and tells the princess Nausicaa, "Hey, you should go down to the forest." And she's like, "Great idea." So she heads over to the forest and finds Odysseus. Just
Thanks,
like
Athena, you're doing
so
great.
Nausicaa brings him back to her parents, the king and queen, and Odysseus tells them the story of how he came to be
Basically, my crew were all idiots. I don't think I'm in a place to comment on that.
stranded on Calypso's island. So it's just after the Greeks have sacked
And-
Troy, and Odysseus
okay,
advises
okay.
the others to quit while they're ahead and sail back to Greece. But of course they don't listen to him, and by next morning they're overrun by a retaliatory force. Odysseus and some of the others take the ships to escape, but Zeus is angry at the Greeks for their poor sportsmanship and sends a huge storm to blow them off course. Odysseus
Okay.
and his crew are swept far out to sea, and that's when the weird stuff starts happening. So
Sure.
first they wash up at the land of the Lotus Eaters, which is populated by these really mellow dudes who eat lotuses. Anyone who eats a lotus mellows out and wants to stay there forever, so of course most of his shipmates eat them, and Odysseus has to drag his idiot crew back to the ships by force. So
Oh, the crew actually does eat them. Interesting.
they set out again, only to wash up on the island of the Cyclopses, where they see a nice-looking cave.
Cyclopes? If you're not going to pluralize Cyclops correctly, how can I know that you're saying Telemachus correctly? No, I'm kidding. Please don't take me as egotistical and sassy as I pretend to be for a bit sometimes.
Surrounded by delicious-looking flocks of sheep. Unfortunately, the cave is home to a large, hungry Cyclops by the name of Polyphemus, who
could've seen
seals
this
them in with
coming?
an enormous rock, kills 2 of the crew, and then falls asleep. Since they can't kill him without trapping themselves in the cave, they bide their time until the next
That part's actually from the original? We can't kill him or we'll be trapped inside?
Kills 2 of the crew and then falls asleep. Since they can't kill him without trapping themselves in the cave, they bide their time until the next night, when Odysseus gets Polyphemus drunk, introduces himself as nobody, and then when Polyphemus passes out, they take a large wooden stake and stab out his eye. So Polyphemus is like,
help, nobody blinded me.
And all his Cyclops friends are like,
yeah, you're hilarious. Polyphemus, is nobody stealing your flocks too?
Well,
so Polyphemus opens the cave to check, and Odysseus and remaining crew bolt for the ships. Then Odysseus, remember the wisest of the Greeks, takes it into his head to taunt the Cyclops. So he's like, hey, guess what, dumbass? My name's not nobody. It's Odysseus. And Polyphemus is like,
Dad, Odysseus gouged out my eye.
So funny story. All Cyclopses are...
I love the voice. Dad, Odysseus shot out my eye. This is incredible. I feel like I don't have a lot to say. Like, I hope that just me laughing along is what you guys wanted from this. Because again, my analysis brain is very music or even like actual long-term like story or character development focus, which is why I've never done a reaction like this. Let me know if you guys find this entertaining, because I'm honestly not sure.
Children of Poseidon. So Poseidon hears about this, and he's like, oh, really? Time for some disproportionate retribution. So after that point, he starts trying to make Odysseus' journey home just as difficult as godly possible. So after that little adventure, they land on the Aeolian island, where the king very nicely gives them a magic leather pouch full of wind to speed them on their way home. But we can't give Odysseus a break
That
just
part
yet.
I knew.
They're maybe
I knew
10
that
feet
Aeolus
off the
was very
coast of
different.
Ithaca when his idiot crew decides that the magic bag has gold in it and busts it open. The resulting hurricane sweeps them all the way back to the Aeolian island. So Odysseus is like, hey, got another one of those magic wind bags? But the king's like, not for you, dude. You've got to be super cursed to have that bad luck. Get off my island. So next they arrive on the Lastrygonian island, populated entirely by cannibal giants. When they start eating the majority of Odysseus' crew, Odysseus and the other survivors get out of there as fast as humanly.
I feel like this creator has already said most of the crew eats the lotus. Most of the crew gets eaten by cannibals. And it's like, how do we even have crew left?
Possible. Next on this mythological island world tour, they come to the...
See, this is one of the things that Epic the Musical does best. We get a constant count so that we can keep track of how many men are still alive and okay.
Aeaean Island, where Circe, the daughter of Helios, lives. Circe is a sorceress, and some wicked hankering for bacon makes her take it into her head to turn Odysseus' rapidly dwindling crew into pigs. Odysseus learns of their tragic stratification and resolves to rescue them. So Hermes gives Odysseus some anti-magic drugs so that Circe won't be able to enchant him.
Naturally.
Well, for someone who the gods supposedly hate, Odysseus sure does seem to get a lot of help from them. So Circe's like, here, have some enchanted booze. And Odysseus is like, awesome. Drinks it, fails to turn into a pig, and then draws a sword on her. So she's like, wait, I'm a mage, I have like 2 hit points. And he's like, I suggest you...
I'm a mage, I have 2
and then
hit
draws
points.
a sword on her. So she's like, wait, I'm a mage, I have like 2 hit points. And he's like, then I suggest you turn them back before I have to whittle that number down to 0. So she does, and then they all chillax on the island for like a year. So then Odysseus is like, yeah, we should probably be getting...
What?
So she does, and then they all chillax on the island for like a year. So then...
They stay on Circe's island for a year? Odysseus, you gotta,
like, yeah,
you gotta focus,
back.
man.
And Circe's like, well, fine with me, but first you gotta go talk to Tiresias. I mean, he's the one who knows how to get you home. Oh yeah? Where can I find him? He's dead.
Boom.
So Odysseus and crew sail down to Hades. They do this wacky ghost summoning ritual, which ends up
Don't tell
attracting a
Casper.
few other ghosts they weren't looking for. And then Tiresias shows up. He's like, what's up, Odysseus? Poseidon's determined to screw you over, but you all might make it back as long as you don't harm Helios' pet cows that can be found on Thrinacia. If you do, though, your entire crew will die and you'll be home, like, super late. And Odysseus is like, cool, you heard the man, folks. No hurting the cows.
Tiresias specifically mentions the cows? Even I wouldn't be able to forgive his crew there. And you know, in Epic the Musical canon, I am a Thunder Saga Eurylochus defender, wholeheartedly. If Tiresias mentioning the cows was included in Epic, I might not be. That's pretty bad, crew.
Then Odysseus has
That's
a little
pretty
touching reunion
bad.
with the ghosts of all his now dead Greek war buddies, like Agamemnon, very grumpy at being dead, Achilles
Naturally.
and Patroclus, now hetero death partners,
As they should be.
and great Ajax. Then Odysseus sails out of Hades and back to Aeaea, where Circe maps out the route back to Ithaca, which for some reason is extremely densely populated by monsters.
Hold on. Did somebody say Kraken? Oh, reverse centaur. Here there be sirens, maybe a few dragons. Better throw in a chimera or something. What am I? Inexplicably a minotaur. Here there be Charybdis. Here there be Scylla. Oh snap, laser bees? Incredible.
So first, they find the island of the Sirens, who sing so beautifully that anyone who hears them will be entranced, jump off the boat, and swim to their deaths. So the crew block their ears with beeswax and keep rowing, but Odysseus is really determined to hear their song, so he has them tie him to the mast so he can listen without doing anything stupid.
This is my own... I know... You guys have to know I was going to keep bringing up Epic for this. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. You guys have to have known this. This is one of the only story beats that was changed from the original in Epic that I firmly think shouldn't have been. Because I think there could have been a really, really interesting song if Odysseus actually was falling for it. Like, imagine a musical representation of Odysseus tied to the mast, actually genuinely hearing the full siren song for what they are. I'm just saying.
The sirens are like, and Odysseus.
No, overly sarcastic! You're gonna get me demonetized! Wait, this is on YouTube. Maybe it's
To the
okay.
mast so he can listen without doing anything stupid. The sirens are like, and Odysseus is like, release me, I must hear their dulcet tones up close. And his crew is like, what? So they get out of earshot of the sirens, only to encounter the monsters Scylla and Charybdis. So
Yes.
Scylla is one ugly piece of work. She's
Rude.
a six-headed
Don't
monster
tell
at the top
Casper.
of a giant craggy cliff, whose heads reach all the way down to the ocean to devour any unfortunates who happen to drift too close.
Fair.
Charybdis is like a combination garbage disposal and malfunctioning garbage disposal that sucks in the ocean and then spits it back out again. So, as they're trying to find a way to sail between the two without running into either the cliff or Charybdis, Scylla
Naturally.
eats 6 of his crew members. On the bright side, this means her mouths are full, so she can't eat any more of them. So Charybdis, Scylla eats 6 of his crew members. On the bright
I'm fully aware that full speed ahead is a very common phrase outside of Epic, but the fact that this was made 6 full years ago and we straight up get the full speed ahead motif is wild and feels meant to be.
side, this means her mouths are full, so she can't eat any more of them. So Odysseus and crew take the opportunity to gun it between them. They finally
Wait, so he didn't intentionally...
Her mouths are full,
That
so
just
she can't
occurred
eat
to
any
me.
more of them.
In the original, he didn't intentionally sacrifice the men.
So Odysseus
Fascinating.
and crew take the opportunity to gun it between them. They finally come across Thrinacia, more easily pronounced as the Island of the Sun, where, despite Odysseus' prophecy-based protests, they land and rest for the night. But then, Zeus strands them on the island for more than a month. At this point, the food Circe gave them starts to run out, and Eurylochus, a somewhat mutinous crew member who's inexplicably survived everything up till this point, is like, hey, what if we sacrificed one of these lovely golden cows to the gods? We'd get to eat it and leave the island. And Odysseus is like, damn it, what did Tiresias say? And Eurylochus is like, oh wait, too late, I seem to have killed one. So
You're making it real hard to be a defender, original Eurylochus. Sorry. Eurylochus is stupid. Eurylochus is valid!
And Odysseus is like, damn it, what did Tiresias say? And Eurylochus is like, oh wait, too late, I seem to have killed one.
Oh,
So when they finally
Eurylochus.
set sail, Zeus hits the ship with lightning. The boat explodes, the entire crew dies, and Odysseus is left clinging to a single timber in the boat, silently contemplating where
So
everything
sad.
went wrong. Then, adding insult to injury, Zeus sends a wind to blow Odysseus back to Charybdis, who eats the rest of the boat.
Oh,
a few hours
Charybdis
later, when Charybdis pukes up the
pre-Calypso.
timber, Odysseus hops onto what's left of the boat and paddles the hell out of there. 9 days later, he washes up on the shore of Calypso's island, and the rest is questionably reliable history. So Odysseus finishes telling his story, and the king is like, dang, dude, want a boat? And Odysseus is like, yes, please. So the king gives him a ship and crew, along with a few tons of fine treasure, and Odysseus naps all the way back to Ithaca.
So
Who can blame
valid.
him? So that's the end, right? He's made it back to Ithaca, so
How is there 5 minutes left? He made it to Ithaca. I mean, obviously, he still has to be naked and kill all the men,
that's
but...
it, right? Nope, we're barely halfway through this book. Come on, give the man a break! So Odysseus is
Halfway
finally
th-
home in Ithaca.
Getting to Ithaca is only halfway through the book? That's Saga 9 of 9!
But there's one small problem. The suitors are still making trouble all up in his backyard.
Naturally.
But Athena, as always, has a plan.
Why are
she
they in my
magically
house?
disguises him as an old man, then goes off to Sparta to bring Telemachus home for the reunion. Odysseus, now disguised, goes off to talk to some loyal swineherd. Meanwhile, in Sparta, Athena's like, yo, Telemachus, get your butt home. So Telemachus sets sail for home, along with several gifts from Menelaus and Helen. Oh,
Thanks,
and he's
Helen.
also joined by this dude, Theoclymenus, who's a prophet and a fugitive from Argos. While
Great.
Odysseus and the swineherd bond, Telemachus and Theoclymenus arrive at Ithaca, and knowing that the palace isn't necessarily safe for either of them,
Rational
immediately
thought
head off to
alert.
the friendly neighborhood swineherd's house. So Telemachus is like, swineherd, my man, how are things up at the castle? And the swineherd is like, oh, still pretty bad. And Telemachus is like, oh, good, nothing's changed. And Odysseus is like, come on, kid, man up. Why are you letting these suitors strut around your house as if they own the place? I mean, if I were, say, the king himself, returned in secret from all his travels,
Hypothetically.
why, I'd strut right in there and kill all of them. And Telemachus is like, yeah, you're right. It's just too bad you're not him. And then Athena's like,
Incredible.
hey Odysseus, I've decided you should reveal yourself to your son, and rips the illusion off of him. So Odysseus is like, hey son, I'm home. And Telemachus is like, Dad! And it's all super heartwarming. Pause for a moment to absorb the feels. So Odysseus and Telemachus start plotting their revenge on the suitors. Meanwhile, back in the castle, Penelope and the suitors, a good name for a band by the way, learn from
Penelope and the Suitors is fire. You're so right
the
about that.
swineherd that Telemachus is back, and the suitors are like, ah, damn it, our ambush has failed. Guess we better kill him right here before he can tell everyone that we tried to kill him. And Penelope is like, what? How dare you plot to kill my son? son. And they're like, what? No, we didn't say that. And she's like, oh, okay. So the next day, Telemachus returns to the palace, while Odysseus, once again disguised as a beggar, goes into town. So Telemachus tells Penelope about his journey, although he leaves out the part about Odysseus. And his new prophet buddy, Theoclymenus, is like, the really weird thing is, I'm getting a sense that Odysseus is here in Ithaca. And Penelope's like, man, that's just ridiculous. Meanwhile,
shut up, Theoclymenus. Was that almost his name?
And the swineherd head for the palace, where the disguised Odysseus is immediately recognized by his old dog,
Good
Argos.
boy.
God, this story is so adorable. Then the dog dies.
I even knew that, but I forgot it. I even knew that because of comments on my epic videos, but I forgot it. And now I'm sad.
By his old dog, Argos. God, this story is so adorable. Then the dog dies. Why?
Real.
So beggar Odysseus begs scraps of foods from the suitors, who generally oblige, except for this one guy who throws a stool at him. So the suitors get pretty boozed up and start talking smack to Odysseus, but then Telemachus is like, sleep it off, you drunks, and they all go to bed. Then Odysseus and Telemachus put their plan into motion.
Sure.
First, they hide all the suitors' armor and weapons upstairs. Then Odysseus goes to talk to Penelope, who he promises that before the end of the month, Odysseus will return. Hint. Hint. Penelope asks beggar Odysseus if he thinks she should remarry, and Odysseus is like, no! I'm sure your husband will be back real soon to murder all your suitors. Don't sweat it. And she's like, man, I don't know. Tell you what. Tomorrow, I'll hold a contest among the suitors and anyone else who wants to try, and only a man just like Odysseus will be able to win and become my husband.
She
and
knows.
Odysseus is like, that's a great plan. Do exactly that. So the next day, all the suitors
clearly
assemble, still
knows.
trying to figure out how to discreetly murder Telemachus. When
What? One of the things is, why does this contest have to be so early? Also relatable.
Penelope unveils her secret plan. So, some context. Odysseus had this crazy strong recurve bow. It was a really cool bow, but it was a present and he never ever took it to war. So it was still locked up safely in the palace basement when he left for Troy. Now, this bow is ridiculously strong, but Odysseus never had any trouble dealing with it because,
he was
as
strong
mentioned
man.
previously, he's a badass.
Or that.
So Penelope's like, all right, everyone, no more delays. I'll marry the man who can string this bow most easily and then use it to shoot through these 12 axe heads. Now, this bow has a draw strength of something like 500 pounds, so none of the
500 pounds is nuts of a
suitors
draw
can even bend
strength.
the bow far enough to string it. And then beggar Odysseus is like, hey, just for kicks, can I have a look at that bow? And the suitors are like, sure, this is gonna be good. And then, of course, Odysseus strings the bow easily. Then he casually shoots an arrow through all 12 axes, and then it's murdering time. Odysseus reveals himself in all his glory, the suitors start panicking, and Odysseus and Telemachus engage in some healthy father-son bonding by killing nearly all of them. After wreaking bloody vengeance on his enemies, and then after a nice long bath, Odysseus is finally reunited with Penelope. Then Athena persuades the entire rest of Ithaca not to take vengeance on Odysseus for killing the entire noble population, and they all lived happily ever after.
That's a fair point. That's it? Oh god, my drawing hand. Super worth it, though. The Odyssey is so freaking long, I didn't have much room for snark in this review, so enjoy the visual humor, I guess, because it's subbing for my usually impeccable sarcasm. Well, in that case, please let me know if there's anything else I need to check out from Overly Sarcastic Productions, because this was quite fun. Oh, we're just getting some kind of fun facts here. Because Odysseus was in Troy, see when Penelope decided to name him. Pretty cool name, though. Incredible. Please let me know, truly, if there's anything else by this creator you want me to check out, if this was a little bit different from what they normally do. This was definitely more reaction and less analysis than I normally try to do, but it's up to you guys in the comment section to let me know if you enjoyed it, or if this just isn't really my style and I should go back to what I'm good at, which is music. So let me know in the comment section what you think. I want to thank my patrons scrolling on either side of the screen for supporting me so much on that platform that I'm able to take risks with completely different recommended content on this platform. And as always, gals, blokes, and all other folks, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.